Youssef.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honourable colleagues, of course, I rise to support the motion 181. I think it's important in the context of this debate that we reflect our own values. Because too often, when we talk about issues of anti-Semitism, as we will also talk about Islamophobia, it's not an abstract debate or discussion. We're talking about the impact on the lives of our fellow citizens, our friends, our neighbors, our own children. And I think since, of course, period of October 7th, we've seen an increasing rise. But anti-Semitism was also here, was maybe not as apparent to many of us, but it was also here. And it continued to thrive. And the reality is, it's always going to take a tremendous effort on behalf of all of us if we truly want to build a society that is equal. Now, I'm speaking to you today as somebody with a Muslim name. I'm not a religious person. I never was when I was young, but I'm not today. But I also know my own equality and treatment cannot be assured if my sister and brothers in the Jewish community, equality of treatment is not assured. Because what I take for granted, or what I like to take for granted, I know is dependent on the rest of society accepting me as an equal citizen in my own country. Now, I wasn't born here. I came here when I was 16 years. I grew up in a country that was perpetuated racism. I was too young to really understand it when I left. Only later to realize fundamentally how it shaped my own life, the impact it had on me and my own family. Two of my uncles were murdered because of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I understand what it's like for a community to feel that they're by themselves. How could somebody possibly want to firebomb a place of worship? This is Canada. How could they possibly want to shoot at a school where children are trying to get an education? How would you want to disrupt the place where people go to pray? There are some things in our society that we take as sacred. But the reality is, of course, as we know, we weren't born with these values. We learned them over time. My young daughter came back one day from therapy, and she said, "Dad, one of my friends in therapy told me that there was a bomb threat in their school." And I said, "How did you deal with it?" She said, "I didn't know what to say." I says, "Well, what if it was a bomb threat in your school?" And she said, "I wouldn't like that." Her friend's school was a Jewish school. And I said, "You need to understand that when these things happen, not only do you need to have empathy, but you also need to understand that they're fundamentally wrong. And you need to recognize that no school, whether it's a Jewish school or a Muslim school or any religious school, no school should ever have to go through that. And no children should ever have to live in that reality." But colleagues, as we know, hatred is something, no matter how much the summit will accomplish, no matter how much the Secretariat work will be relied upon us to educate Canadians, we will not end hatred in our society, and especially hatred for our Jewish brothers and sisters. It will take a continuous effort of every generation to stand up and say, we will not tolerate. For the longest time in my life, I could not go to Germany because I couldn't get over the war. I couldn't get over what happened. When I finally went there, I went to one of the memorials. And for the life of me, I know German people struggled when they erected that to remind the world that they also understood and they take responsibility. I stood there for the longest time. Complete pain in my heart, trying to understand how something like that could happen in the world, where 6 million brothers and sisters were murdered. And yet, in a modern society, people still carry that hatred. How is that possible? Colleagues, I know we will pass this motion unanimously in this chamber. But a motion is only the words. It is the action that we must live every single day in the work that we do. Like my young daughter, I hope she grows up in a world as she becomes an adult, where hatred is not part of the world that she will live in. But I know I'm deluding myself. I know I'm deluding myself. We are part of the most beautiful country in the world, where every possibly human being from every part of the planet has come here to settle. And we recognize one of the fundamental things for coming to this country is the way we live. We accept each other. And we should treat each other with respect and dignity. Too often than not, we tend to forget that. And it will take a generation. When I was leader in the labor movement, I recognized a long time ago, a movement that I grew up in was rife with racism. I was a co-chair of the first anti-racism task force for the Congress. As I went across the country to talk to my fellow union brothers and sisters, it broke my heart when I heard what fellow union members were facing in their own union. When the report was finally released, I remember a journalist saying, "Why would the labor movement examine itself and then make it public?" One of my responses was, "I hope we will take action to change our behavior. Because if we don't acknowledge it, we cannot fight it. And if we don't have a commitment in the leadership, we will never change how we behave." So colleagues, I know the importance of this motion and what it means, not just for our debate here in the chamber, but also what it means for my sisters and brothers in the Jewish community. But it should mean more than that. It should mean about what we talk about on a constant basis. What is the reality that our Jewish brothers are facing on a daily basis? I hope my young daughter's life has been enriched because of her Jewish friendship. I can tell you some of my friends, as we are constantly meeting and talking about anti-Semitism and some of the issues that they're struggling with, how they worry about the future. I cannot reassure them anymore that things will get better, except I make the commitment in my own life and in my own actions and behavior, I will do my part to ensure our country is rid of anti-Semitism. Thank you so much.